Welcome back to Analytical Strategy. Today we're going to be talking about the most recent winner of Australian Survivor All-Stars, which is David the Golden God Genat. This game was considered one of the best games in the history of Survivor globally, especially because he was such an unlikely winner leading into the season, and especially after the pre-merge of the season. Like the previous game he played, he was a massive threat. He made a lot of big moves. He gave people fake idols in exchange for real idols. And inevitably, he got a little bit too cocky and went home with an idol in his pocket. Within Australian All-Stars, there was a lot of threats that were eliminated early in the game. And he was one of the only huge threats by the time merge came, so it was very unlikely for him to make it all the way to the end, especially with the previous seasons of Australian Survivor, where a lot of the smaller players have made it to the end and gotten the win. So for such a big name and a big personality of the season to make it all the way to the end and get the win, it was really good to see and a nice change for Australian Survivor. So prior to this season, he was probably tied for my favourite player, along with Benji, who didn't actually get to play All-Stars. But this season made him take the cake. He is definitely the best Australian Survivor player to date, and I really just want to break down his game and break down all the moves that he made. Some of them I would consider some of the best moves I've ever seen, and just want to look into his game into more detail. So within the pre-merge, there were only 2 eliminations for Dave's tribe, the Yellow Tribe, before tribe swap, and the first of those 2 was Jericho. So this was clearly Dave's decision, and Jericho had already won the game before, which probably impacted Dave's choice to get him out. We could see that his majority alliance was talking about some of the options in the minority alliance to get out, but it was Dave that really called the shots to get Jericho out of the game. There are even little intricacies that you could see during the tribal council. So Jericho worked his magic as he always does. He had tears in his eyes saying how difficult the game was, and a lot of people within Dave's alliance really were humbled by Jericho and felt bad for him. But Dave saw right through him, calling Jericho's acting pure gold as he voted him out within his confessional. So it's these things within Dave's personality and his gameplay that really make him a top tier player. Seeing people for the strategy rather than themselves trying to get attention and things like that, it really makes Dave a top tier player. So the second vote out within this tribe was Daisy. So this, in my eyes, was arguably the most thought out and well constructed move in the history of Survivor. So this one I'm going to break down in a lot of detail. So firstly, he was able to read the game well enough to know that he was leading one core alliance, and Matt Rogers, who was on the minority alliance, was leading the other. He proposed to Matt that they work together in secret so they can rise to the top and chop off the underlying players. So this was a great idea, as in the beginning he saw threats getting eliminated, and he thought he would not only be able to work with Matt, because Matt is an extremely logical and level-headed player, but also to try and get Matt to the merge, to have another person as the same threat level as David around when that time arises. So if they both get to the merge, Matt can sort of be a shield for Dave, but also be able to work with Dave in secret to cut off a lot of the lesser threat levels. So not only does it help his game by bringing Matt to the merge, but it also grants him visibility over every person in the camp and what they are thinking if they feed each other information correctly. So the other 6 members of Dave's alliance told Matt that Mo was going home. So personally, I believe this is a bad strategy. If you're going to tell the opposition of a player that's going home, it's generally not going to be correct, so the best thing to do is just not say anything at all. But Dave was able to tell Matt that they were voting for Jackie, so Matt could play his idol on her. So this also benefits Dave by an idol being flushed and removed from the game, whilst also gaining a high level of trust with a member of the game from the opposing alliance. In addition to this, he was aware that Brooke, who is a member of his alliance, found an idol which is usually great for an alliance, but Dave didn't want anyone in the game other than himself having possession of an idol. So in the early stages of Survivor, it may be viewed as a team game, but Dave always saw it as an individual game, which I think is the correct mentality to have. The way of how nervous he acted prior to that tribal commencing was phenomenal acting and allowed the perception that he was fearful of going home. He also told Matt to tell the other members of his larger alliance that Matt and the minority alliance were voting for him. So this makes it easy for Brooke to play her idol on Dave. Whilst all along, Dave had pinpointed the vote on Daisy, as he knew she was highly aware of his gameplay from their previous season. Also within this move, I need to give a huge amount of credit for Matt for his acting during Tribal. This was elite, to say the least. His sign-off line of, look what I would do for my alliance. Would any of you do the same? Almost forced Brooke to play her idol for Dave, and it was just pure poetry in motion. I just love this move so much. Joining an enemy alliance when you have overarching power, whilst keeping control of your current alliance, flushing two idols, getting out one of the biggest threats in the game, getting out an idol played for you when you know you're not in any danger of going home, just to flush these idols is just crazy, crazy. It's high level, and it's super top tier, and it's unbelievable strategy. So this all happened prior to the tribe swap. So him and Matt were split onto different tribes, and unfortunately Matt went home before the merge. So we were unable to see how that alliance would have gone moving into the future. But I do think it was a really, really smart, well thought out move. And it was unfortunate that we didn't get to see it pan out over the longevity of the game. Because I think if both of them made it to the merge, they would have run the show, and it would have been great to watch. But once the tribe swap happened, David was left out of the loop when Phoebe was initially voted out and sent to the fire-making challenge. But in the same motion, he was also upset with Phoebe for attempting to leave him out of the vote. So Dave wanted Nick to get voted out. Phoebe wanted Mo to get voted out. If Phoebe voted with Dave, Nick potentially would have gone home. So whilst Phoebe was voted out and got to stay in the game for making fire, Dave still didn't trust her because she didn't vote with him to get Nick out. So this made it much easier for him when she shared her idol clue with him. So he was able to lead her astray and find her idol himself. This not only represented his outwit portion of the game, but also shows how strong socially Dave actually is. When Phoebe told him she found the clue, he didn't flinch. He didn't budge. He obtained the information he was trying to obtain from her, and he used it to his advantage. The scenes within this where Phoebe was searching the termite mounds whilst David already had the idol and running through the bush was hilarious. His ability to go from in the zone, best friend of contestants, to turning his back and putting on an expression is so great and adds to his character of the show itself. So not only is he a great game player, he is also a great character. So he's now in possession of two idols at this stage of the game, which is huge. He was the first person in Australian Survivor history to have two idols at once. But I think he did make a big error in revealing an idol that night at Tribal when Phoebe was inevitably eliminated. But he still somehow avoided votes coming towards him for the remainder of the game, even though he revealed an idol, which is unheard of. Which again, it shows how good he is socially in this game. When someone did target him, there was always someone else who had his back. Which just shows how good socially he actually was. We mainly saw his goofy and strategic side on TV, but the way he talked to people and clearly the way people protected him shows how well he was able to relate to people and work with them moving forward. Once Phoebe was gone, he was easily able to get out her right-hand man in Nick, and then it was smooth sailing to hit the merge. So one thing Dave also was able to do extremely well was read when merge was happening, based on his previous season of the game, and put all his ducks in a row before the two tribes came together, which is where the powerful alliance of the Makuta 7 began. He told them he was going to be able to get intel from the remaining Vakuma members who he'd worked with previously in the early stages of the game, and he was able to tell members of Makuta, such as Mo, to play the role of Dave being on the outs of that 7. So this allowed him to slide straight back into being the middleman and gathering intel of both alliances, which again is the perfect place to be. The way he was playing Brooke at the first challenge of the merge, saying, I don't care if they hear me, I'm on the bottom, it again was phenomenal acting on his behalf. Once he was able to get Lockie out as the first merge boot and draw that line in the sand, it was easy enough for him to get Harry out as well as the second merge boot. And then one of the worst one of the worst twists in Survivor history happened where the 6 people were voted out and sent to Exile Beach to compete to get back in the game. So this is one thing that I do dislike about Australian Survivor. I do think they're doing a lot of things right, but they have way too many twists. Like every 30 seconds, it's like, oh, someone's not getting voted out, they're getting sent to the other camp, or you're getting sent to exile, and then you just come straight back in the game. But yeah, other than the twists and production, I think they're doing a good job, but I think they need to limit how many twists they're adding to the game. But basically, in the first tribal where they voted 3 people out, he sent AK and Brooke. And then in the second ep, he sent Zach to exile to compete to get back in the game. So again, this was really, really good strategy by Dave. He clearly should have been, if he was protecting his alliance, one of the people sent to exile to compete. Because he was really, really good at challenges as well, in addition to the strategy and social elements of the game. But he sent Zach there, claiming he's the big dog and the main man, which inevitably costed Zach the win and got him sent home. So whilst Zach seemed like a clear person to send and Dave seemed like a clear person to send, Dave knew that there is a high degree of risk being involved in that, and him being able to stay on the beach was the right move for him. So while Zach got sent home, Jackie turned on the Makuta 7 within that vote, which ultimately cost her position in the game. David also played his idol on Tarzan this tribal, which was questionable, because if he kept it, he would have guaranteed himself Final 4 without winning immunity, but it also allowed for an extra member of that 4 to be immune in case that vote did go to Rock. So it was 4-4 when Jackie went home, but Sian was able to convince AK, Brooke, and Shawnee that she was going to work with them moving forward, so it didn't have to go to Rocks. But if it did, Dave had his idol played on Tarzan, which made himself and Tarzan safe, which meant only Sian was in danger of going home out of their 4. So I do understand his logic in playing it if he knew it was going to go to a 4-4 split, but I do think if he kept it, he was guaranteed Final 4 without winning any immunity challenges, which I think is a better spot for him to be in individually. But once it went 4-3 and Jackie was gone, it was pretty smooth sailing all the way to the final 2. He was able to knock off Shawnee, AK, Tarzan, Brooke, and Mo before almost sweeping Sian in the finale, with only 1 vote going to Sian from Mo, which was interesting. I didn't expect that. I thought Mo definitely would have voted for Dave as well. I thought he was going to receive every vote, whether he went against either Sian or Mo, but ultimately he almost got the clean sweep and was the winner of the season. The only real threat to him winning was Brooke, and she could have won out on the challenges, and I think if she won that second last challenge, she probably would have been the favourite in that final endurance challenge. She did have a lot of friends on the jury and was an absolute beast, so I think she could have given him a run for his money. I still think that a lot of Australian Survivor participants really highly value the strategy component of the game, so I do think he still would have got the win. But the only other real threat to him was Mo or Sian winning final immunity and then voting him off. So his game was absolutely nuts. So within the pre-merge, he was really exciting and played huge, but he had to. He had a big target from the get-go. He was able to get a lot of inroads moving forward. He was able to be that middleman in tribe swaps within the start of the game. He was able to be the middleman within the same tribe between the majority and the minority alliance, and it really positioned himself to move forward. And then once the time merge hit, it was pretty boring. But you got to give credit to Dave when it is a boring season like this. So think about the US version where Kim won One World or Boston Rob won Redemption Island. They were 2 of the most boring seasons of all time. But the reason they were so boring is because the best winners or the best games ever came out of those 2 seasons. So you've got to give a massive credit to Dave. I sort of see him as a cross between like a Tony and Kim. He is able to be crazy. He's able to make big moves. He's able to be that sporadic kind of guy that Tony is, but he's also able to be level-headed and have everyone come to him and protect him if he is the one on the chopping block, which I think resembles Kim's game quite a lot. So Do I think he played the best game in Global Survivor history? I'm going to say no, because I do think he made a couple of mistakes in um, showing his idol at Tribal the first time when Phoebe went home and playing his idol for Tarzan. So the only reason I can't give him the best game of all time is because I don't think it was flawless. I think Kim and Boston Rob's game in those 2 seasons were pretty much flawless. I don't think they really made any mistakes at all. But you got to give Dave credit. I think it's probably a top 5 game ever. I think he is able to adapt extremely well. He's able to make the big moves when he needs to, and he's able to be cool, calm, and collected when he needs to. And that really shows throughout the duration of this season, so I've got to give massive props to him. He's definitely my favourite Australian Survivor contestant so far, and I think he would ever struggle to get that deep again, because now people know how good he is if he does ever come back. But yeah, massive credit. He'll go down in Australian Survivor history as one of the best, if not the best player to ever play the game. And if he ever gets the chance again, I really look forward to seeing him playing. So if you haven't seen this season, I highly recommend giving it a watch, especially that episode Daisy gets voted out. That move is incredibly top tier, well thought out, and really shows his analytics for the game. So appreciate you all listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any suggestions of anything you want me to dive into, please let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll be back with another podcast or video for you shortly. All right, thanks for listening. Cheers. Bye.